Phil and Will are back. Survivor Second Chance is in the books. A fantastic finale, probably the greatest tribal council of all time. A very deserving winner. A bunch of really strategic gameplay, really fast paced. This was an all around great ending to an otherwise great season. Not too much to complain about here. We're going to get into it from top to bottom. Fun reunion. It felt like the reunion was full this year. Like it had a lot of stuff in it, even though I guess the time was shorter on it. It just seemed like they dwelled on things we actually kind of wanted to hear about. I mean, how much more do you want to hear about Joe? Whatever. Jeremy gets the win. The most shocking thing is somehow he does it 10-0 over Spencer. Definitely didn't see that coming. But I mean, we got to get into this one from the top. I don't know, Will. What do you want to talk about here from this finale? What stuck out to you the most?
Well, I think Jeremy is a perfect winner. He played a perfect game. I don't think, was there ever a vote cast against Jeremy the entire game? He got every single tribal council vote. I think that's kind of what you need to do. Is there any other requirements for playing a perfect game?
No. I mean, the only time he got votes against him was when he played as idol. So he offset the votes.
Okay, so maybe to play a perfect game, you can't get any votes at all. Because I'm trying to think, who's played it? Earl, I think, played a perfect game, and I think JT did too. I don't think either of them had any votes against them.
I'm trying to look it up now. I don't either. I know for sure, though, Jeremy did not have a vote count against him this entire season.
Right. I mean, I'm walking away. This was probably the best finale probably ever in Survivor, just because we had such an amazing final, or the final six, just the best, tribal council ever. And then, throughout we get final five is pretty good. Final four is pretty good. And I was surprised how good they did everything, over and over.
Yeah, and this was really fast-paced. There's a lot of strategy going on. The way Kimmy went out, if you would have told me, we had said at Final Five, maybe they're both going to play their idols, all the votes will offset. The way Kimmy went out, it was her trying to make a huge move. And I think Kimmy, very underrated this season, not from what we saw, but I think she did a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff that just did not make the final edit because she's not as interesting of a character as these other players. And she was an older player. A lot of people probably don't remember her as well. She got on because the women's grouping was a little bit smaller. I feel like Kimmy played really hard this whole time, and I think tonight really showed she was always thinking, and she was looking. She knew who she could beat and who she couldn't. And I feel like she was trying to make these moves the whole time. They just never panned out. Finally, one's about to pan out, and Spencer sniffs it out instantly.
Yeah, I'm not too sure about. Yeah, I think she tried to make moves, and it's not that they didn't pan out. We didn't really ever get a closure on the girls' alliance at Final 7. Why didn't the girls stick together? I thought Jeff would at least bring that up in the reunion, because that seemed like such a great opportunity for everyone involved. It wasn't like someone was getting the short end of the stick. I mean, you had Abby, Kimmy, Kelly Wentworth, and Tasha. If they stick together, they take out three really strong players. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there either. I think Tasha was almost a little blinded by who she wanted to go to the Final Three with. And I'm shocked. She seemed content going to the Final Three with them the entire time. She never wanted to sway from it. She was so happy that was the Final Three, just like we thought all along. I don't think she realized that she wasn't going to get a vote. I think she thought she might have had a chance, and it seemed like, at least from the edit at the Final Tribal, which I know they cut for time, but it seemed like a lot of people weren't really focusing too much on her. It seemed like it was all between Jeremy and Spencer. And I think this was closer than 10-0. The Steven Spencer one was a clear 7-0. The Earl Cassandra Dreams one was a clear 9-0. I think this was closer than 10-0, but the way the votes played out, everybody just happened to vote for Jeremy. I don't think this was a landslide coming into that final tribal, though.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely got a kind of shortened version of tribal council. I mean, Joe goes up there and has one question for Tasha, and that just seems so absurd because he had an alliance with Jeremy, he had an alliance with Spencer. It's like you'd think he would ask them questions, and he probably did. It was just they had so much to fit into one episode. I wish we would have got opening statements. I wish we got closing statements. I mean, just to get what they were saying, because I was not seeing this 10-0 vote. I thought Jeremy was going to win, but I kind of have a bad taste in my mouth. I think Spencer should have won this season. I think the whole baby card, the family card, I mean, I'm shocked that got so many people, and maybe it didn't. Maybe Jeremy had other arguments, and they were just playing that up for TV. But from where I'm sitting, it was like people were just sobbing, listening to Jeremy talk about his kids, and that $1 million would be great. And if I'm Spencer, I'm going, look, this I'm 23 years old, I'm 22 years old, whatever. I don't have a family, no, but can we just talk about what we did in the game? And if you look at that, I would have given my vote to Spencer. I think he played a better game. He was floating in the middle. I was surprised how bitter people were. I mean, Steven coming up to Spencer being like, I forget his exact question, but he was saying, what did Steven say? He was talking about being humble. I know that was Keith. And then arrogance was savage, but everyone was really hitting their personalities. And I think you got to really look here and say, these are two great guys. Like, Spencer's not a huge asshole. Jeremy's not a huge asshole. They're both like good human beings. Why are you talking about the personalities? Why aren't we talking about the game more? And so that really, really surprised me.
See, I don't think they were talking. I think what rubbed them the wrong way, I don't think it had anything to do. It could have been 6-4. It could have been 7-3. It could have been something like that. It could have been closer going into that final tribal. But I don't think anybody was really sold completely on Spencer. I think some people were sold completely on Jeremy, and that's why Jeremy was getting all the votes. But I don't think anybody was completely sold on Spencer. And my whole thing with what Spencer did is, I don't think it was so much that Jeremy played the baby card. I think he lost votes the night before at the Final Four Tribal Council when he resorted back to his old ways. And he didn't play up that it was a relationship between him and Jeremy. He said, if you don't take me to the end, I'm going to tell everybody over there that you don't deserve to win, and I'm going to make sure Wentworth wins. That's going back to his old brash ways that got him in trouble from the beginning. This was, if he would have said, Jeremy, look, we've been tight the whole time. We have a relationship. We're tight. We're friends. Like, why would you not take me to the end? I would take you to the end. If he does that, I think he gets more votes. I think people were like, Spencer, what the hell is this? Now you're showing your true colors. People didn't see that as a game move. They saw that as bitterness, desperation, and exactly what Spencer tried to change coming into his second chance.
Yeah, I can see a little bit of that. I think that maybe didn't land well with the jury, but that's just one night. And I think, look, if Spencer goes back to that night, he probably does something differently. But for him to have that maybe be his only flaw of the game and still sit there and get 0 votes is pretty shocking. And if you talk about a player who had a bigger target coming into the game, was it Jeremy? Was it Spencer? It was Spencer by miles. Spence. I mean, Jeremy, how long did he last in San Juan del Sur? I think he made it, one vote after the merge, 10th place? Okay, Spencer got the Final Four, was the fan favorite, was like a huge strategist. Spencer making it to the end is a huge feat. Jeremy was just kind of in the majority the whole time. And I've said Jeremy played a great game. He was my pick to win before the season started. I like Jeremy as a character. I like him as a player. But this episode, we'll get into everything. I thought Spencer made some great, great moves. And did that move at Final Four really hurt him wholeheartedly? I think he probably, if he doesn't do that same thing and he still sits at the end, there's a chance he loses 10-0. I think it's the people that were just so on the whole family train.
I don't think they were on the family train so much, though. I think they respected the game.
How does Sierra, if you look at Sierra's question and then Spencer answered it like perfectly, saying, look, like I bounced around in the middle, and yeah, that sometimes means I blindsided people, but the way they were talking about him as if he was some huge villain, it would surprise me with how hard these people try to play the game. Sierra said the whole time, make big moves, play the game. And then she asked Spencer, what was with all the flipping? And then he answers it perfectly, and Sierra still votes for Jeremy. I think Sierra's a mother herself. She has, I think, a kid, maybe even 2. And so I think Jeremy pulled at her heartstrings. Do you have an explanation for why Sierra? This is just one vote.
No, Sierra made no sense to me. And I thought that was the same thing. When she got up there and asked her question, I actually thought it was a little bitter. Because I'm like, she's been saying the whole time, make big moves, and now you're faulting the guy for making big moves. I thought that was kind of – that did not fit Sierra's mantra or gameplay this entire time. I thought that was off. But I don't think that people voted for Jeremy specifically because he said, look, I have the kids, I have the family. And if they did, now you got to hear me out on this. Because if they did, Steven Fischbach played a great game in Survivor Token Chains. Could have been worthy of winning. But you can't go to the end and sit there next to JT. And Spencer has to be smart enough to say, I'm in control. I need to not sit in the end against Jeremy. It's just as much his fault as everybody else's. Jeremy won 1 immunity challenge. 1. He could have gotten rid of Jeremy at any point in the game except for at the end. And I think Spencer owned that at the reunion when he said, got rid of Fischbach, should have gotten rid of Jeremy. Got rid of Joe, should have gotten rid of Jeremy. I think he realizes that. He had to get rid of his biggest adversary if he wanted to win the game, and he did not do it.
Yeah, there's something to be said for that. I agree with you there. And look, I'm not saying Spencer should have won 10-0 either. But if you're looking at the game and asking me who played the better game, I'm telling you Spencer Bledsoe played the better game. And that might sound crazy. You might say, well, he got no votes. From what I saw, it seemed, I mean, you look at Joe, who, if you listen to his exit interview, said, wow, Spencer got me. Like, he had me. And then goes and he's tearing up, smiling with like just tears spewing out of his eyes when Jeremy's talking. And I really
see, but here's my problem with what you're doing right now. Because you say all the time, we always go over the winners and stuff like that, and you always say the only one that really didn't deserve to win was Amber, that was a bitter jury. You tell me every time Russell didn't deserve to win, Natalie did. You tell me every time, every time that there's like an argument with a winner, you always say, well, if they won, they deserve to win. All of a sudden, you're going to sit here and tell me Spencer played a better game than Jeremy, and this jury was bitter. Out of all of the juries that we've gone over, you're going to tell me this one is the bitter one, or they only voted because of sympathy. I think that is completely ridiculous. I think that's just getting kind of blinded by Spencer's edit. I think Jeremy played a fantastic game. Maybe not 10-0 worthy, but I think Jeremy deserved to win this game. He had all of the pieces in line. He was able to make the moves that he wanted to make, and he played it great.
Right. No, I'm not saying Jeremy's not a deserving winner. He's a completely deserving winner.
But you're saying that 100%. Spencer should win over him. That's crazy.
No, I'm saying if I had a vote, that's who I would vote for. If I'm sitting there on that jury, if Jeremy starts talking about his kids, I'm saying, Jeremy, enough about your kids. I get it, but I want to hear what you did in this game. And that seemed to be like the moment. I know it was edited that way, but I mean, I do think this jury was bitter than a lot more juries, and I'm shocked by it too. I mean, the way Savage comes out, he's talking about, being arrogant. Then we have Keith with the humble. I mean, it was so like people felt really hurt when they were voted out. And when everyone went home this season, they kind of laughed it off like, you got me. Good one. I was expecting kind of a lighthearted jury. Not everyone's going to go in there and say, ha ha, it's just a game. But, for the way this season went and how there were voting blocks, and everyone acknowledged that there were voting blocks, for people to get mad for Spencer flipping and bouncing around was absurd. And I wish I could say this is all editing to build up Jeremy's win, but if you listen to these questions, they were like attacking Spencer for the votes that he made, for the game moves that he made, and I was very, very shocked by that. I mean, did you feel any of that?
People weren't kissing Jeremy's ass either, though. I mean, people were calling out Jeremy, too. So I think that – I don't even think they were bitter, though. I mean, they were talking about this, and you got to watch the Ponderosas, because the people aren't that mad they got voted off, and they're all saying, like, they're not going to make it easy for the final three. Like, they didn't want to make it easy for him. So, like, these questions might have been skewed just to see how they would answer them. I don't think anybody was really mad at Spencer. I don't think anybody was really mad at Jeremy. I think it just came down to people thought Jeremy played a better game than Spencer, and the people who were kind of wishy-washy, kind of in the middle, they ended up at the end of the day saying, you know what? Jeremy's got the kid thing. Sure, I will throw him my vote because I'm not sold on Spencer. So, yeah, I think it helped Jeremy get more votes that he brought up the kid thing. I don't think it was the reason he won, though.
Yeah, no, that's a fair argument. I have watched the Ponderosas too. I've watched them all. It just seemed when I was watching, I'm like, wow, they're really getting in it. And I'm not saying Jeremy didn't get any kind of pain at all either, that they were harping on his personality, but it seemed like Spencer was getting way more of that. And if you look at like the moves and the votes and the gameplay, like Spencer did more. I really believe that. I know it's just not a strategic game. I'm saying right now, if I were on the jury, I would have voted for Spencer. Jeremy wins. He deserves it. Great winner. Love the guy. He was my winner pick. We can move on from this topic. I mean, I just wanted to say, like, him winning 10-0 was a shock. And I think Spencer did play a very good game. I mean, for someone like Spencer to play a game, I think he played a really great game. For him to go to the end and get 0 votes, like, he didn't – I mean, Will got more votes than Spencer. Carolyn got more votes than Spencer. Wu got more votes than Spencer. I mean, this is what we're talking about here. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to get that out there. We'll get into now, final 6. Let's kick it off with this.
Let's kick it off. And it starts off with a pretty solid start here. Keith pretty much explaining why they voted out Abby, as he's saying, why would you vote out Abby? And he's like, I wanted to sit next to her in the final 3. And everybody's like, yeah, well, that means that one of us wouldn't have been sitting there in the final 3 with you, Keith. Like, you're explaining why we voted her out. You wanted to sit there with her. And, this just showed, like, Keith was a little clueless. Keith wears his heart on his sleeve. He can't help it. I actually thought that was Keith.
I mean, yeah, it was a clueless thing to say because the argument against it makes so much sense. But this is the first kind of time it's been brought up in Survivor that you want to take out the GOAT because they'll take the spot. So I was surprised Keith was even thinking that far ahead at all. For him to say, I wanted to sit next to Abby, that shows me that Keith was playing harder than I even thought he was playing, even though it was still a bonehead thing to say.
Yeah, no, I think Keith was playing pretty hard this whole game. I think Keith was playing as hard as Keith knew how to play. He's just not, even like when he was trying to explain himself, like why he didn't use this idol later on in this episode, I will never understand. I think he just played as hard as Keith now knows how to play.
Yeah, I can tell you why. He thought that a fake idol was like cheating, pretty much. That's what
I just think he would have felt silly to go out that way. He didn't want to go out that way. I think that's really what it was.
But it's not like he thought it was real or didn't know if it was real. Like, he knew it was fake. At least throw it around your neck. I think him doing that, he didn't want to lie that blatantly. And his character is worth more to him. But it was kind of funny. The name of this episode is Lie, Cheat, Steal. Keith is the one that says lie, cheat, steal, and then doesn't end up, doing that very thing he said he needed to do. So I don't know. Keith is all over the place. Let's get into Kimmy's plan. It's a pretty good one. Let the majority, there's a majority of 4 against 2. Let the 4 split, so it's a 2-2-2 tie. But if Kimmy flips, it's 3-2-2-1. Good plan. It's almost too obvious though, and when she goes off and talks to Keith, it kind of spoils the whole thing. It ruins it.
Yeah, and that was the biggest thing, is that she went off and talked to Keith about it. Jeremy looked really surprised by this though at the Tribal Council. He looked like he didn't think Kimmy was going to pull this. This was a really smart move by Kimmy. She knew she was not going to be able to go to the end. She knew what the 3-person alliance was. She knew she wasn't going to be going to end with them, and she knew if she went to the end with them, she still wasn't going to win. So she saw this opportunity. She said, you know what, let's make the move now. I can beat Wentworth. I can beat Keith. I thought this was a great move, great plan, just executed poorly. Not so much executed poorly, just she did it. There's so few people left in the game that everybody is completely paying attention to what every single person is doing. And at the same time, you have these great players around you. And that's what made this so hard.
Yeah, do you think if because she talked to Wentworth the night before, right, when they got back from Tribal, do you think if she had just kind of said, look, you talk to Keith, I am in on this, I don't want any suspicion drawn at all. Do you think that's a better way to go about it? Because Keith and Kelly just sort of kind of became this pair out of nowhere. I think that's probably the way you got to do it.
Now, do you think, though, that Keith wouldn't have believed it and would have thought it was just Kelly's way of saying they're going to vote? Do you think he would have looked into it and been like, oh, man, they're going to vote for both of us. This is Kelly trying to save herself.
I think if you get to that point with Keith, if he doesn't believe you, then you bring Kimmy in and say, then you have to make that happen and go get water. But to do it so blatantly in front, Kimmy was like, Keith, do you want to go get water? Like, it was so blatant, especially when you're dealing with good players like Spencer and Jeremy. So I think you have to wait and see if he has a problem with it. But at the same time, why would Keith have a problem with it? He's the guy that's like, yeah, I'm on the bottom. I'll do whatever. Sure thing. Sounds good to me.
Well, because then it would have been between, he might have thought it was between him and Kelly, and that Kelly was
but there's 4 votes. So I mean, there's 4 votes. I guess if they were splitting, then Kelly can write Keith's name down. Keith writes Jeremy or whatever, and then boom. That could work, but I don't think Keith sees that far ahead. I don't think he's thinking about things. So when this plan came together early on, you knew it wasn't going to work out because it happened. It just came together too easily.
Exactly. And Spencer sniffed it out right away. Jeremy was shocked, but this all leads to probably the best tribal council of all time. It was played up, the Survivor First thing. In the description, it did say, in a Survivor First, that like in a shocking tribal council, a Survivor First shake things up. And then they talked about how and then the sole survivor is claimed. So it was a little bit of a reveal by CBS that the Survivor First wasn't going to be a tie at Final 3. We didn't see that till afterwards. But this tribal council, even though we kind of saw it coming because the Final 3 thing had kind of been ruled out, this was amazing. This was absolutely amazing. All of the things that went into this. This is like 5 different seasons of Survivor. Like those best tribal councils merged right into one tribal council. Like that's what this was like. This was unbelievable.
Yeah, even heading into it, it was really good too because you had Spencer. We should talk about this. We had Spencer and Jeremy sitting on the hammock. Spencer's saying, look, I'm on to Kimmy's plan. She's going to vote for you. Jeremy's saying, no, no, no. And they never came to a resolution. And you're thinking, sitting to yourself, well, they must have decided on something. We'll see how it plays out. Even that has its, very intense moment. Like, you don't know which way it's going to go. Did Jeremy believe Spencer? Does Spencer say, look, I'll split the votes. I'm with you. I'm with Kimmy. We get there, and then Spencer pretty much just lays a bomb out and says, this was against Jeremy. I'm almost certain of it. He says, look, us three, we are voting for who did they say? We're voting for Kelly. Like, we're voting together. That's it. That's all. Kimmy, you can do what you want because I don't trust you. What do you think of this?
I think this was I think that's what Spencer did, and I think this was a good move by Spencer. But I think as this tribal went on, Spencer started to show his old colors. I think this is where it first started to come out a little bit. I think because he knew he was safe, he started to get a little too arrogant for everybody there. And I think him bossing it around, he kind of had to let Jeremy know, look, either you're going home, we're all voting Wentworth. You have to vote Wentworth. And I think that's what he was doing. But I think as this tribal went on, he got a little too arrogant here. And I think this is where people started to get the whole arrogance thing. This wasn't so much a gameplay. It was almost like he was bullying. And I think that pissed people off a little bit. The bullying always pisses off survivors.
Yeah, I didn't see this as bullying. It seemed like this was the only way you're going to convince Jeremy to do it. You have to call her out at tribal council. Jeremy's sitting there not thinking they still have Kimmy, which we know isn't the case. But man, this whole arrogance thing, it's isn't the game about doing big moves? And when you kind of have to take control of the game, how when Natalie Anderson asked Jacqueline, did you do what I told you to do? How is that not arrogant? But because Spencer says, look, I'm going to pull a big move at tribal council.
But why are you defending? Now, let me ask you though, why are you defending so hard Spencer's big moves? But when Russell Hantz loses, you don't defend his big moves. Because you always say he doesn't deserve to win.
No, there's a huge difference. And Russell didn't deserve to win because people hated Russell. He was an asshole.
But I think people started to dislike Spencer a lot for the same reasons they disliked Russell. I think they did not like his attitude. I think they did not like his arrogance. They don't want to hand $1 million to a 23-year-old kid who's starting to get this arrogant. He really got too confident.
See, I think it's so different. I really do. I think maybe, they a little bit arrogant, but Russell was a pain to live with for 39 days. Spencer, Savage says he's a great kid, intelligent kid. Tasha loves Spencer. Jeremy said how great Spencer was. Spencer was friends with Joe. He was friends with Steven. He never had beef with any of them. He never really ticked them off except for his game moves. And that's where the difference is here. So I'm defending this move because for people to say him, I thought when I saw that at Tribal Council tonight and Spencer says, this is what we're doing, Kimmy, I don't trust, all that, that was brilliant Survivor gameplay because it put it all on the table. It made the other people scramble and it made Jeremy kind of have to, he couldn't split the votes anymore. It did everything it needed to.
And one thing I want to point out here, I think Kelly Wentworth made a huge mistake here. She knows she's going to play her idol. She knows she's getting 3 votes. She should not have voted for Jeremy. What is the point in causing a tie? Throw your vote at Tasha because you know you're playing your idol. You know you're going to be safe. You know the other 2 are voting Jeremy. If Jeremy has an idol, he's going to vote for you, or then he plays it and he's safe. But if you throw your vote at Tasha, Tasha goes home and there's nothing she can do about it. Because the other 3 had to vote for you out of fear that the 3 of you were still tight. They don't know that Wentworth has an idol. So they're thinking rocks, rocks, rocks. That's what it's going to be. Wentworth has to sit there and say, man, I'm going to vote for Tasha because the 3 votes against me aren't going to hurt me. And the other 2 I know are going Jeremy. And let's get this one in case Jeremy does have an idol. That was a big mistake on her part, I think. And I think she could have won the game had she done that.
Yeah, the biggest question here is when did she decide to play the idol? Was it after looking at people's reactions after everyone had voted? Because then it's she decided too late and you have to play it now because if Jeremy plays his, although we probably wouldn't have. If Kelly doesn't play her idol, Jeremy doesn't play his. But if she was voting, going into this vote saying, look, I'm going to play my idol anyway, then yeah. You definitely have to been
thinking that though.
You have to write Tasha's name down. No, I'm just explaining. Yeah. There might be a reason why she didn't do that, but yeah, you have to write Tasha's name down in that situation. I completely agree. That would have been a brilliant move, along with the other brilliant moves tonight. But yeah, that would have been a good idea. So it goes to no votes. Jeremy plays his idol after Kelly plays hers, and we're in the deadlock. I was surprised. If Keith knew the rules, he would have switched his vote here.
Yeah, I don't think Keith really knew the rules 100%. To be honest, I don't think
anyone did, and it seemed it kind of it went by way more quickly on the show than than in real time. I think they had to kind of go over some things. Maybe even other producers came on. Maybe Jeff had to kind of figure this out for himself before explaining it to the castaways. But if Keith knows that pretty much if it does go to rocks, he's the only one drawing rocks and therefore is going home, they go to a revote here and it doesn't go to a deadlock. Because Keith could have easily said, you know what, yeah, I'm going to flip.
Yeah, no, and really what it comes down to with Keith, though, is maybe he thought they were going to vote for him anyway, and Kimmy would be the one who would go with the rocks.
But that wouldn't make any sense.
Why not?
Because everyone there deciding the unanimous decision, like they were, in Kimmy's alliance, and I know she had just flipped on them, but it's still better to get out Keith. I mean, I don't know if this was all going through Keith's head, but at this point, it's 3 votes Tasha, 3 votes Kimmy. All he has to do is say, you know what, I flipped my vote over. I'm going to vote Kimmy. And then,
yeah, I don't think he realized
flip.
that everybody else would be safe. I get what you're saying. I don't think Keith realized that the 2 people who played their hidden idols would also be safe. I don't think he really knew the rules here. But this made for really crazy, poor Kimmy going out in that way after really almost pulling off the move. And if it wasn't for idols, they all would have been drawing rocks, and who knows what happens after that.
Yeah, and well, if they play idols, then then Kimmy's not safe. Then Jeremy and Kelly become safe. So they would have been safe either way.
I'm saying if they didn't play idols, my bad. If they didn't play idols, it would have been 3-3. And if they would have voted again, still Kimmy would have had to pull, but she could have still had a chance to get there and get the numbers. It's the same. This is the same situation that happened in Blood versus Water, pretty much.
Right. What I'm saying is whether Jeremy or Kelly play idols or not, they're safe, essentially, because it's going to be a 3-3 deadlock, and then those people will become immune. The other 4 have to draw rocks, or the other 3 minus Spencer. So yeah, this was very, very crazy, fun to watch. And it gets down to this moment where it's pretty much, if they don't all agree, then Keith goes home. So Keith has to agree and pretty much say it's Tasha. So it's kind of left up to Kelly Wentworth here. And Keith even says, I'll go home. She's a mother, all this stuff. But Keith wants to stay in. This was like a bummer situation. How Keith and Kimmy somehow, the 2 people who weren't targets at all, no one really, either of them gone, are now, it's up to one of them. And there's no voting. It's just kind of deciding.
Exactly. And that's a shame to see that happen. I felt bad for Keith in this situation because it seemed like Keith really, really, really felt bad that Kimmy had to go out that way. I thought he was almost going to get up, grab his torch, and walk out of the game. And Kelly was like, you need to stay.
This was Kelly Wentworth's perhaps her best move of the game, saying, hey, wait, Keith. If I say Kimmy too, then we're both in here. Then we're still here. We're still here. And that pitch worked. Keith's like, fine, yeah, I'll say Kimmy. They go around. Everyone's down with Kimmy. So great play by Kelly to get Keith in line and say, look, this is your game. You don't have to give up just because she's a mother. I mean, 6th place is pretty good. Kimmy goes home, and yeah, has that ever happened before where they have to they all unanimously agree? I don't think that's happened.
I don't think that's ever happened. I think they've either gone to rocks or somebody switched their vote.
Yeah, I mean, usually they used to do a revote, but they kind of have figured out now that when they go to a revote, it just wastes time and no one really flips. So, I mean, at least in the earlier seasons, they would do that a lot, and then sometimes someone would flip, but pretty much it was deadlocked. And how do you feel about Jeff going around asking, are you going to change your vote? Spencer, are you going to change your vote? Like, if Keith says, yeah, I think they should.
But
I don't think so. I kind of have a problem with it because then then you're saying you're voting the open before other people. You don't get to conceal it. Not that it would have a huge influence, but man, it doesn't take long. You don't even have to air it. Maybe that should be just don't air it. Let the people vote again. Though it's in the rules. I mean, I know they can decide whether they need to revote again, but man, Keith could have figured that out in time. If he got a rule breakdown.
Exactly. I don't know. Either way, this was a great moment. It's a shame Kimmy went out this way. Wentworth votes for Tasha. We probably see a lot more of Kimmy and Keith this entire season because they probably would have been sitting in the final 3 with Tasha. Or with Kelly Wentworth. That would have probably been the final 3. If Kelly Wentworth would have voted for Tasha at the beginning of this, we would have seen a lot more of Kimmy and Keith earlier in the season because they would have been sitting in the final 3 with Kelly Wentworth.
Right. Yeah, I mean, still, who knows? I mean, Spencer can win immunity, Jeremy can win immunity. So,
Yeah, but
They're
two of
still-
those three would have been in the final.
Yeah, most likely. Yeah. Amazing tribal council. And again, I mean, I didn't, when this moved, I got no arrogant vibes from Spencer. I got a little bit of them on the second at the final, what was that, the final four tribal council. But here I thought, man, that's just get it all in the open. I love the bold move. So yeah, didn't get any there. Let's move on. We go right to the challenge. I mean, we're not really getting into mini challenges here. Let's just talk about all the challenges at once because we can go through each one, but we have a lot to get to. Which one? What'd you say?
I liked all of them. I thought they did a really good job picking these three challenges. They picked the big one at Final 6. They picked the more like strategy-based one at Final 5. And then that's a cool challenge at Final 4. It's not physical. It's still mental. You know what I mean? Like it's not an endurance challenge, but it's still mental. It's how good is your concentration this late in the game? How Kelly Wentworth let her ball drop. It was so easy. Those two balls were separated by like 10 seconds. And she just completely zoned out. And I like that challenge. I think that's a good challenge to do at the end. Nobody has an unfair advantage. It's just, hey, can you concentrate and can you do well enough?
Yeah, I love that challenge too. I'll say that ball challenge is great. I don't know why they had 2 extra balls. I mean, we got to 5. How can you get to more than 5? And I've said this all season. I don't like when they stack it up so it's impossible because then it's just like, well, the first one who gets to kind of their tough spot in their order, it's
well, Jeff said 5 was last.
Oh, well, they each had 2. They each had 7 on their thing.
So he said 5 was the last one they were going to do.
Yeah, okay, that's at least good. I could watch them do 5, juggle 5 balls for. I mean, that challenge is really fun. Yeah, the other challenges I like too, the stair one and the classic net one in the puzzle. Very good all around. Don't have much else to say on them. Let's get to this final 5 vote. This one was the pretty straightforward one. We had Jeremy kind of say, look, Keith, vote for Spencer and we can get Spencer out of here. And I don't think he ever really was going to vote Spencer off. Did you?
No, I think he just wanted to make sure that they weren't voting for him. I do, however, think if Keith walks into that challenge, and Keith's not the guy who can do this, but I think if the tables were turned and Spencer had a fake immunity idol, you walk into that tribal council, you sit down, you put the idol around your neck, and you say, me and Kelly are 2 votes and we're voting for one of you. So it's up to you guys if you want to put it at risk that one of you go, or all 3 of you can just vote for Keith. I'm going to play this idol, and whoever we vote for is going home. It's up to you guys what you want to do if you want to vote for each other. Because I think if you come in with the confidence, it scares them enough that they sit there and go, holy crap, we are this close to the final 3, and I cannot blow it by saying I don't think that's a real idol. Because I think that by all of them looking different, this was a great move by Kelly Wentworth because she knew they all looked different, and everybody knew they looked different. So why couldn't this one be an idol?
Did everybody know that the idols looked different? I mean, I know Jeremy did and Kelly did.
They had to. The ones Jeff would hold them up every time and say, this is a hidden immunity idol.
Yeah, I mean, but I don't know. Are people really looking at that? Like if you're Kimmy, or I mean, she's not there, but if you're Tasha, you're Keith, even Spencer, who always seems to have his head in the game, are you really looking into you never really get to hold them. So, I mean, I'm still very skeptical. Where did this idol come from? Because they probably didn't rehide the last ones. You kind of have to go back. I think what happens here is they still say, look, we still have to make him play this idol because if it's not real, like one of us is going to go home anyway. If you're Tasha, you're thinking they're probably going to take out Jeremy or Spencer. If you're Jeremy or Spencer, all you can really do, I guess, is vote for the other one. But that's not going to matter because if you let's say you're Spencer and Kelly and Tasha are already voting for you, then, it's kind of like Princess Dilemma a little bit. Like if they're already voting for you, that's 2. You're going to think Jeremy's going to vote for you if you're going to start tossing random votes. So that's already 3. So then you're done. So voting Jeremy doesn't do anything, and Jeremy has to think the same way. So I think even in that case, and they see this idol, they probably still all vote Keith just to make him play it. Say kudos to you guys. You guys too, vote who you can't play the idol's fake, and then Keith goes home anyway. I would have loved to see the move. It would have been dramatic, great television. I'm kind of bummed Keith didn't pull it out just because there was so much build up there. The idol looked great. Kudos to Kelly Wentworth for making that darn thing. But I still think Keith goes home.
And this reminded me a lot of Caramoan, at least the reaction here, at least if Keith would have pulled it out and put it on, the reaction would have been very similar to Caramoan. I believe it's when Philip went home, when Eric Reichenbach was sitting there going, guys, just vote the way we were going to vote, vote the way we were going to vote, vote the way we were going to vote. Because at that point, there's nothing you can do. Trying to reorganize the votes the entire time while you're sitting there isn't doing you any good. You need to just vote and vote. But I do think that if Keith puts it around his neck, there's at least a discussion, and it very well could have worked. I'm not saying it would have worked, but it very well could have. He had a 0% chance of making it through without pulling it out. He had about a 25% chance, I would say, of making it through if he did pull it out. And that's a huge difference when your game is on the line here, just because you'd be putting in their heads, oh, my God, it could be me now. I don't want to be the one who goes home because I didn't believe him that was a real idol.
Yeah, no, I still think he should try. I'm with you there. He needs to try this. There is maybe something to be said that, look, Jeremy did say that he was going to vote Spencer. He said, he whispered, like, look, me, you, and Wentworth, that's 3. That's all you need. So maybe he's thinking, you know what? I'm already safe. If I pull out this fake idol, they know it's fake. Then, my ass is grass. I'm out of here. They don't trust me. Maybe he's thinking that. I doubt that all went through his head. But with you, should have played it or tried to put it on his neck. But I still don't think it works. I think Spencer and Jeremy are going to say, hey, look, whichever one of us goes. We have to make him at least play it. Yeah,
exactly. No, that's true. That's true. But it still would have been interesting. I think Keith had probably just didn't want to go out like Randy or didn't want to go out like somebody. I think, like he even said at the reunion, I've seen it not work and I thought it was cheesy. I didn't want to go out that way. I think he just didn't want to go out looking like an ass because he went out looking like an ass the first time. And I think that's kind of what this came down to.
Yeah, I get a little bit of that too. He definitely, the whole stick to the plan thing was kind of in the back of his head, and him putting this fake idol and not being able to sell it or people laughing and all that stuff, like that could really get to him. So I think he says, look, I'll take my chances. Hopefully Jeremy votes Spencer. Spencer is a threat. I mean, if you're Keith in that position, you got to say, look, Jeremy knows Spencer's a threat. Maybe he will vote for Spencer here. Maybe he does have like a 25% chance.
Yeah. No, that's true.
Okay, that covers that tribal council. Not as exciting as the others. But
one moment real quick. Stephen Fishbach just tweeted. Somebody asked, do you think that Jeremy's speech about family changed anyone's mind, or do you already all know who you were voting for? His response was, it probably changed a few. Jeremy still had it locked before final tribal council, but likely not a sweep.
Okay, that makes sense. But that's crazy. A lot of them were coming in saying my vote's open, which we didn't mention this. I completely called BS on that. I think a lot of people knew. Too. I think a lot of people are going in that thinking I'm going to vote Jeremy. So I don't think, again, I still think Spencer. It's also too bad we didn't get to hear opening closing statements. I'm sure we did them. I would have loved to hear what Spencer said because he had the best argument to win. So maybe he didn't put it to words, but you got to think that if anyone can articulate an argument, Kelly Wentworth said this so much that he can do it, that he's the one who can, put his story, put his narrative into the eyes of the jury. So I'm kind of bummed that we had so much to get through this finale. But it was still great. Still great. Let's move on.
I thought they actually moved through at a pretty fast pace, and I don't mean to be doing this, but I'm just looking at Twitter again because it's right here. I thought they actually moved through at a pretty fast pace. But Steven did say, if Jeremy boots Spencer, Kelly Wentworth wins. That's how skewed the edit was this season, I think.
I mean, Kelly got a pretty darn good edit, and I think that speaks more to, like, Spencer's move isn't being a bully. It's like he's fighting for his life. Like he's doing what he needs to. He's making a big move in front of the jury by threatening Jeremy, saying, look, if you take Kelly, you're going to lose. I mean, that's what you need to argue. And I hate that people are harping on that and saying that's being arrogant and being a bully when this is a game for $1 million. Okay, maybe it's a little rude, but it's Survivor and it's tribal council at Final Four. So yeah, let Jeremy know that you're going to lose if you bring Kelly, and that turned out to be the truth. So that makes the Spencer argument even more valid, in my opinion.
No, it does. It does. I just think Spencer handled things in the wrong way. I don't think he needed to make that argument, to be honest with you. I think he was going to the Final Four anyway. Or go out and start making freaking fires in the back, assuming that maybe Jeremy does change his mind, but you make the fires. Don't put yourself in that position to look bad. You can't ever put yourself in a position to look bad in Survivor. And that's what Spencer did here.
I agree, and we'd not mentioned this yet. I was going to say this wasn't like a Jeremy. If he votes Spencer, Spencer goes, and we would have still had fire. So I agree with you. How about you just practice making fire, hope, trust in your relationships. Yeah, I think you're right there. That was the better move, but it's not like this one was a terrible, awful, like humiliating, like game-losing move. But that's kind of what everyone's saying it is. So that's where I'm saying more that yeah. could have done it better, but this wasn't like it shouldn't have broken his whole entire game down.
Yeah. And I think it's okay to talk about this now, because do we really have to talk about so much what they did when they came like after the challenge? Kelly goes, she loses the challenge. We all really know Kelly Wentworth's going home. Jeremy gives like a little bit of hope because he's like, oh, I might, maybe you want to do fire. You want to do fire. It was never really going to happen. I don't think I ever bought into it. I was never convinced it was going to happen. I think they all knew Wentworth was a threat to win the game. I think Jeremy was smart enough to realize she was a threat to win. Even though Spencer was a threat too, I think Jeremy knew that. I just think that he knew he could make the argument of, look, I started the game. Me and Spencer have been tight the entire time. Him and Wentworth haven't. So betraying her at that point would have been like had Steven won immunity and Tocantins, voted out JT to sit there with Aaron, which really was the entire argument against Steven in that final tribal council. So I think Jeremy was kind of looking at that, let me stick with my alliance.
Yeah, and there's also something to be said. This was a final 6 for 2 hours worth. Like, we just didn't have time for fire. And not that they wouldn't have showed it or anything if it didn't end up happening, but we were so far into the episode. If, you could look at your clock and say, look, there's only so much time left in this episode. If there's fire, there's going to be 10 minutes for all of day 39 and all of final tribal council. Because fire, that could last a while. They wouldn't have spent so much time on everything else. I mean, they had so many live look-ins from Jeff. They had him explaining the whole strategy thing, which we didn't really talk about, but we can if you want. They had Jeremy's post-challenge sigh and tears from Kelly Wentworth. They spent a good amount of time on that, which I was kind of like, come on, let's go. We have so much to do. So that's kind of why I knew there wasn't fire. Kind of any suspense.
I buy that, and I think the reason they showed that was because they wanted Jeremy to get his winner's edit added on. Like, look at him, he's breaking down. He did it for his family. Like, he's crying, he's losing it. I think they also wanted Kelly Wentworth to be this huge fan favorite where it meant this much to her. She was this close and she knows she's going home. Because if they ever do like a returning players again and they can pick from anybody, the women's side is always not as thick as the men's side. And Kelly Wentworth was a huge fan favorite this season. And they will gladly ask Kelly Wentworth, who is a huge fan of the show, who puts her heart into it every time, they will gladly ask her to come back. So I think this is a little bit of planning for the future, because they do plan for the future now. I think there's a little bit of planning for the future and also giving Jeremy more of a winner's edit.
Yeah, I hear that too. It makes sense. It was just so much to get done. And maybe it's not even that moment's fault or any particular moment's fault, but it's almost, man, I wish we just had one more episode because there was so much going on tonight. I mean, that one final tribal council was so crazy. That was the longest of the night. I mean, that lasted longer than final tribal council, I'm pretty sure. So, I mean, if we get one episode of final 6, then we're going into final 5 with the finale, room for everything. I mean, this was great. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, no, here's my deal with what happened here. They wanted that tribal council to be in the finale. They wanted that. Once that happened, they said, we got to get this in the finale because this will be the best finale we've ever had.
I can see that. There's also an argument for maybe if you have that episode 1 before the finale, everyone is stoked on it. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone's going, what just happened? Or maybe it's because they needed that live look-in from Jeff, just the people that don't follow the rules and the strategy as much as we do.
But another point that they might be looking at here is if you do the episode at final 6 and Kimmy goes home, the 2 boots in the finale are predictable. They're boring. They're easy. You know that Keith and Kelly are the next 2 to go. If they lose immunity, they're going home. So at least this beginning here sets the tone where it's like, oh my God, they do have a chance. And then you see their chance go away, and it's like, well, can one of them win immunity? And you're only watching it for another hour and 15 minutes, or really another hour because of how much they put into the tribal council, the final tribal council, as opposed to 2 hours of, wow, Keith and Kelly are going to go home. We know this is going to happen, and here's your final 3.
Yeah, that makes sense too. And I'll just counter that one more time. I think there could have been a strong possibility for Jeremy to tie it up and go to fire. But I knew that wasn't going to happen. All suspense was gone because of how much time they had left to tell, the rest of the story. So that would be the other side of that argument. Either way, I'm happy with the finale. Probably the best ever. No complaints from me. So what do we need to get to now? I mean, the final 4 vote, we've harped on it a good amount, just talking about what Spencer did, kind of decided he didn't need to do that. Or at least even if Jeremy flips, like, you get to go to fire. Spencer should know how to make fire. He practiced every puzzle. He memorized the puzzle from Worlds Apart in case it came up again. I'm sure he memorized other puzzles. He should know how to make fire. So that would have been cool to see. But should we just go into day 39? I mean, day 39 was pretty short, and then we can get into final tribal.
Yeah, day 39 was really short. I mean, it was just pretty much the thing you get every time. Everybody gets one confessional about saying why they think they can win. You know, we don't have the fallen comrades anymore. It just doesn't fit into the show. I mean, that was always something that they did that was cool at the beginning, and then it started to wear off. Yeah, they didn't really do too much here with day 39. It was the day 39 breakfast. We didn't hear much about it. I still thought, though, going into this final tribal that it was going to be close. I predicted a 6-4 Jeremy win going into the final tribal. I think I texted you that.
You did. I was kind of like, I knew Jeremy had won at this point. You could just tell from his confessional at the breakfast. And you knew he was going to win this game. And I was just kind of I was just like, man, this it's kind of over. And I was so kind of mad it was already over. And I was really hoping maybe Spencer would pull off an upset somehow. But as the final tribal went on, it just wasn't going to happen. A point that I'll make now, I used to watch Survivor with my family, with my parents. So in the very early days, you know, Survivor Africa probably is when my dad said this, like, wow, why is this finale 2 hours long? They're just fluffing it up, like with the whole fallen comrades and the music and, you know, all this stuff. He's like, they could easily get this done in an hour. And this finale was just the exact opposite. And it just shows how much I mean, obviously we had 6 people to deal with, but it shows how much the show's changed, and that when there used to be not that much going on, now there's just so much going on, so much to talk about, so much to get into. So I think that speaks well for the show, and I hope we get more kind of just jam-packed finales.
Absolutely. And my dad was always the same way. You know, you sit there, you watch it with your family, your mom likes it because, like, you know, she's into like the whole like, oh, I remember him, I remember her. Like, that's what my mom used to do. And I used to like it because I just was like, oh, I forgot that guy was in. Here I am like 10 years old watching it. I didn't remember who the hell they were. But my dad was always like, this is dumb. Fast forward. That would be when he got up, go make popcorn, all that stuff. Tonight's episode, that was an intense 2 hours. And even this final tribal, I know you have some problems with, you didn't get all the questions from everybody. You didn't get the opening statements. You didn't get the closing statements. This final tribal, the tension was high the entire time, and it just kept escalating. And it started off, I thought Savage came out, and yeah, you can say he was bitter. You can say what you want, but he was bitter towards Jeremy and Spencer. I thought he asked good questions that made them answer and actually revealed something about themselves. And I thought that was good. And right from then till the end, which was only like 15 minutes, which is short for a final tribal, it was really intense the entire time. A really great final tribal. Ends with Jeremy breaking down about his kid. I thought that was great. I was a fan of this. Sometimes the final tribals, you get to somebody and it's like, why are they still talking? Why are they still talking? Why are they still talking? That did not happen here. Also, Wigglesworth, one of the funniest things ever, because she was just so irrelevant to this game, to come up and get her second chance trying to screw somebody over because of the number question. I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah, that was very funny. I got a good laugh at that, especially because I had a really good feeling at that point it wouldn't matter anyway. I guess what I'm saying here, and I know I can't say this enough, we did start at Final Six, so we had a lot to get to. But over the past few seasons, we've known the winner going in. We knew it was Mike last year. We knew it was Natalie. We knew it was Tony. We knew it was Tyson. We knew it was Cochran. And so I think Survivor's gotten used to shortening these things because we don't need to spend a lot of time going back and forth and asking questions and opening statements and closing statements. We don't need that. We haven't needed that for 5 seasons in a row. But this one deserved it because Spencer and Jeremy, it's the first time we've had 2 contenders for a very long time, and that's why I feel like a little cheated, a little shorted here because it's something I've been looking forward to. And right when Keith and Kimmy were the first 2 boots, we knew 2 out of our 3 contenders would be there and that we were going to have a fun tribal. So that's really the only complaint. Some of the questions were a little like, why do you have to be – I mean, I think a lot, like you said, they're kind of being fake bitter just to rile them up, like put them to a test. And I kind of like that, but you could kind of see through it too, right? There was no back and forth. There was just, they asked the question. And it's like, okay, yeah, that's a pretty good answer. Yeah. It wasn't tense, like, no, you let me finish. Like, no one got into any fights. No one was like,
maybe that's why they shortened it. Maybe that's why it was shortened, because maybe there wasn't anything like that. And they were like, you know what? We have such a good hour and 45 minutes before this. Let's just get into all of that because there isn't any crazy moment because the jury really was a little fake about it. You know, maybe that's why they didn't get too much into it. Even Abby asked a really good question. I swear she did not write that question.
She did. What was that again? Her question was very, very good. I was very impressed.
What was your subtle move that got you here? I thought that was a great question.
It was a very good question. I think everyone had really good answers. The only thing did big moment, but I want to hear these people come out after 39 days, after being voted back into this game, after being fan favorites, to come in and say, look, before you ask me a question, I'm just going to tell you why I think I should deserve it to win this game. And I'm sure they got to make that argument. I want to see it. I want to see what Spencer said. And I want to see if it was good or not, because that he didn't get any votes, like, shocking. They should release like the full 2.5 hour, 3 hour final tribal council. I would pay to see that.
I completely agree. And I think that, I mean, Spencer said it all at the reunion. I was really surprised, but he said, I walked out of there and said, I have a 0% chance of winning this game. And he knew. And I would have loved to have seen why he knew it was so easy that he did not have a chance to win. And I didn't really get it so much. I mean, yeah, Jeremy did his whole thing, and it was like obvious he was going to win. But for Spencer to sit there and say, I stopped watching the show because I knew the mistakes I made and I knew I wasn't going to win, I mean, that's kind of shocking because people always feel like they have a little bit of a chance to win. You know, like
especially someone like Spencer, who I thought he played a very, very good game. I mean, he played I thought a game very similar to Rob Sesternino in Amazon, where the voting block thing, I mean, I've said this already, the voting block thing isn't completely new. We saw something very similar in Survivor Amazon. And Rob was bouncing in the middle, back and forth between alliances, making relationships, and everyone calls Rob like the best player ever. It's just Spencer didn't have as many goats to get, or he didn't manipulate the goats as well. So
I think what happened too, and I think what happened too here is they all respected Jeremy's game enough and they respected Spencer's game that they just liked Jeremy more. They would rather see Jeremy win. And I think that's what it came down to. I think they did respect both games. And I think Spencer did play a great game. And I think if Spencer plays in the normal season, somebody commented, and we're going to get to these comments, but somebody commented, he could have won Cagayan and he gets 0 votes here. And I think that really speaks to who you're playing against. And it's Spencer's bad to go to the end with Jeremy because he did play a really good game, but people just liked – Jeremy played a really good game too, and people like Jeremy more.
Yeah, I mean, we can compare this to Tocantins better than anything. I know Tocantins was a final 2, but I mean, this is the shutout. Kind of the more likable guy who probably didn't play as strategic as a game getting the votes. And I mean, 0 votes. So I think this is very, very similar.
Say that again. I lost you for a second.
Tocantins. Comparing Steven to Spencer, getting 0 votes to Tribal Council despite both playing very, very good games. They just went to the end with the wrong person. That is Spencer's mistake. That's his downfall. Again, I just want to clarify, Jeremy deserved to win. If I were voting, I would have voted Spencer, but obviously he did everything right. He got all 10 votes. So I'm sure there are going to be people saying, what are you talking about? Haven't read any of them, but let's get into them now. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's get into the comments. We'll talk about the reunion a little bit as we go. So first, though, I do want to bring this up because people were asking. So Vitas was not invited to this final tribal, and this reunion. He was not invited to the finale. What ended up happening with Vitas was he got voted out first. He wanted to go home and spend time with his kids, and CBS told him he was allowed to do that. But they also told him you can't go on social media or anything. Well, he was on Instagram or one of them, and he was liking pictures while he should have still been out in the game. Now, Vitas was trying to argue and say that this was his assistant doing it. It wasn't him. It wasn't him doing it. People are asking, do you think Vitas spoiled the season? Do you think he was the one who threw out this boot list? Do you believe that Vitas would be the one to do this? Or do you think that he just went home because he wanted to go home? He got voted out first. He wanted to spend time. His kid's 1 year old. Do you think he just wanted to go home and spend time with his kid? Or do you think he actually did spoil this boot list and out of bitterness?
I don't know. I needed a better timeline here. I know there have been other survivors that leave early. Brad Culpepper did it. Someone else did it too. It's not unheard of to say, look, I think when you do that, you do have to say, I'm not going to spoil anything, do my best. He was posting on Instagram. He was holding yoga classes, and people obviously know that he's a yoga teacher and that you can take his class. So when he's hosting yoga classes, when he's supposed to be on the island, I mean, that's not doing your role to keep it secret. I think it totally makes sense that they banned him. When you get banned from the finale, you don't get your $10,000 for showing up to the reunion. So the appearance fee is probably huge for him. So if I'm going to pick anyone out of these 20, why not Vitas? Again, it doesn't have to be one of these players that spoiled it. It probably is. And I would probably say Vitas if it is a player, but I kind of need the timeline. When did he get banned from the reunion show? Was it right when he started posting? Or did it happen now?
They just announced it.
Well, I mean, he wasn't there. Yeah.
2 or 3 days ago, they announced it.
Okay, so then I probably don't think it was him because he couldn't be bitter from being banned if he hadn't been banned yet.
No, I'm saying, do you think he was bitter because he was the first boot?
Yeah, but you don't spoil a season.
I don't think he's like that.
First, Yeah, no.
Yeah. Okay, so that's clear. There's some comments from during the episode, but we were kind of trying to get to those. Let's see here. I had tweeted out, I'm shocked Spencer didn't get any votes. The Star 88 responded with, to me, that's really poor. Spencer definitely deserved to win. There's definitely an argument, and I'm kind of saying, like, Jeremy deserved to win this game. Like, I love that Jeremy won this game. I think he played a great game. I really am shocked, though, that Spencer walks out of here with nothing. He walks out tied for second place with Tasha, who he played a million times better than. I'm really shocked by this. I wouldn't say Spencer definitely deserved to win, but, I mean, come on. He should have gotten a vote so he at least gets second place.
Yeah, I mean, unless people really hated that one move. I mean, if you look what Spencer did, I mean, in the exit interviews, Joe was saying how he gave all credit to Spencer. Like, Spencer's a dude, man. He really got me. And Steven saying similar stuff. I know Jeremy played the idol for Steven, so Steven was probably a lost cause. But, man, the target he had going into the game and then playing that well and then still getting to the end with no idols, I mean, it's just he balled out, as Jeremy said. No, really, no one did.
Yeah, it's weird. I'm really surprised. Nate LaRocca, so much for guessing how the votes would pan out in your finale predictions videos. I mean, I would have never said it's going to be 10-0 if it's Jeremy and Spencer sitting there. I would have never said that.
Yeah, I wonder if anyone called this, and if they did call it, they knew. Just like Jeff Probst called it, maybe.
Giovanni Oriana. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, especially with the edit Spencer got, like, for him to get shut out, bizarre.
Very weird. Giovanni Oriana, who played a better game, Earl or Jeremy? And there's a bunch of questions here. There's even one here. Giovanni Oriana actually asked, who played the best game from the people that won every jury vote? JT, Cochran, Earl, and Jeremy. I guess we can just say, where do you think Jeremy ranks amongst them?
I don't know. That's a really tough one. I'm probably going to stick with JT. I think Earl, if Yauman wins immunity there, or if Dreams gives him, and I think Earl was closer to losing. JT would have won against Aaron. JT obviously would have won against Steven because he did win. He would have won against Taj, especially because she was married to a famous football player. So I think JT put himself in a position that he was going to win no matter what. Having Kelly Wentworth so close and Spencer with you, even though he did get 0 votes, I think is more riskier than what JT did. So I'll go with JT.
See, I'm going to say Jeremy and JT are about 1A and 1B because I almost want to give it to Jeremy here. And I know we if you've ever listened to our winner prediction or winner, not predictions, but our winner rankings, all of that stuff, we always talk about you get a second chance to play, you're so much better at the game. So Cochran, you can throw him out. But the difference here is when Boston Rob won, it was his 4th time he was playing against nobodies. When Tyson won, it was his 3rd time. He was playing half against people who sort of knew how to play and against people who had never seen the game before. Jeremy comes back on a season that is so pumped up, so amped up with people who, yes, they had already – like, these are all people who are playing for a second time. They all understand the game completely. They're all incredibly huge threats. And I think that Jeremy just won a season with probably the biggest competition of all time. Didn't get a vote till he got to the – didn't get a vote the entire time. Sits there at the end and gets every single vote. That is incredibly impressive.
It is. No, it's impressive. I just think he was closer to not pulling it through, where JT really, really had that thing on lock, like throughout. So that's, I mean, I think both are great.
Even at one immunity, he would have taken Aaron to the final with him, right? Did he not say that?
Yeah, because Steven is a challenge beast. That's going to happen.
I'm just saying. Like, if Jeremy loses that Final Four challenge, they're still not voting him off.
I don't know about that. Why do you think Jeremy was I mean, I don't know. I think Jeremy was the bigger threat than Spencer. Why did everyone vote Jeremy if Spencer was the biggest threat?
I don't know.
I think Jeremy. If Kelly wins, they vote. Jeremy goes.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it would have been Spencer still. I think Tasha. I don't know. So.
I think it's at least fire because remember what Tasha said? Like, what's her move? Tasha said she's 10 times stronger relationship with Spencer than with Jeremy. So
no, that's a good point.
I think Tasha hops on votes Jeremy, Spencer votes Jeremy, Kelly votes Jeremy, Jeremy goes home. And who's more likely to win immunity? Stephen Fishbach or Kelly Wentworth. Stephen Fishbach has won 1 because he did some weird number trick. Kelly Wentworth has won 2. I think Kelly Wentworth's the better challenge competitor. Both good winners, though. Both great winners. I think Earl and Cochran are definitely below them, too.
Definitely. Okay, so Giovanni Oriana, do you think Spencer not getting any votes was the result of him being a game bot? Now, I don't even know if he was really a game bot here. I think he did grow as a person. I just think towards the end of the game, as he started to lose control over the game, he started to get too emotional and resort back to his old ways. I think he actually lost the game because he was too emotional, not because he was a game bot.
I think he lost the game because Jeremy was just a bigger threat than he must have had everybody in his pocket.
Mm-hmm. No, that's true.
And Spencer didn't see it.
Jeremy might have played one of the best social games of all time right now.
Yeah, I mean, you hear it from even Sierra's exit interview saying, yeah, Jeremy and I were actually really close out there. I mean, I think that's what tells you more. I mean, we didn't see it, but I think if we were going to go and talk to all these castaways, why did you vote Jeremy? I think he had everybody. And Spencer didn't see that, and that was his biggest mistake.
Yep. Giovanni Oriana, who had the best jury speech?
They weren't speeches, really. No one really kind of came out and stole the show. I mean, I might say Abby just because it's a great question, and she gets kind of a handicap for being Abby.
I like that. I actually thought Kimmy handled this really well, where she came in really emotional, and I think she took Jeremy's explanation incredibly well. And I'm not saying so much that it was like a great speech. I just think that this was probably one of the better moments out of the jury, because this is what we're used to seeing. Somebody comes up, they're so hurt, they're brokenhearted, and here's Jeremy saying, look, this is why I did it. You hurt me because I kept saying to them, no way Kimmy's flipping. And when you flipped, it hurt me. And I was like, you know what? I got to skip around. I got to run up there. And, Savage brought this up and was like, you say you're tight with Kimmy, and then you're running around, skipping, all that stuff. I think that Jeremy's reaction there was great. I thought his answer was great, and Kimmy took it really well. Almost like it was finally like one of those like sincere, heartfelt moments that we really didn't get from this final tribal council at all.
Yeah, my only problem with this one is that it's like it was such an obvious answer. Like, if Jeremy decides to blindside Kimmy, or something like the Tony Trish vote, something like that, I think that one hits a lot harder, because when Kimmy asked this question, everyone screamed the same thing. You were flipping on him. You made them split the vote. You could go join up with Keith and Kelly. Much like I was going to say. And yeah, it was kind of nice, but I really wish someone would have like, why did you really do this to me? I want to know why, because you lied to me. You betrayed me. And no one was really that mad about it. So
yeah, I think that's where the fake bitterness comes in, because I don't think anybody was that mad.
Exactly.
I don't think they were bitter towards Spencer.
Exactly. That's why I'm so surprised he didn't get any votes. I thought it was all a put on. Like when Sierra was talking to Spencer, I'm like, wow, Spencer answered that so well about the flipping of the voting blocks. I mean, when you have voting blocks, everyone knew about these voting blocks. I mean, he got beaten to death at these tribal councils. Spencer played the perfect game in regards to the voting blocks because he flipped from each one to each one, staying alive. I mean, isn't that the very definition of like the new wave, the no alliance game? So yeah, that's why I was just still shocked here that Spencer got no votes.
So Mel, did Spencer just choose the wrong people to align with, or was there an argument he could have made to get some votes at the end?
Yeah, we didn't see his closing or opening statements, and again, we heard nothing about him saying, I almost got voted out on day 2. I came in here with a huge target on my back. Never heard him mention that once about his huge target. It was bigger than Tasha's. It was bigger than Jeremy's. We never heard him say anything about not playing any idols. You could dock Jeremy if you wanted to. I mean, if you want, it's definitely a path to go down where Jeremy can argue, look, that's playing the game hard. We never heard him really even say like what his biggest strategic moves were. They were all kind of more about his character, and maybe that's Spencer's flaw here, that he talked all about his character and his kind of emotional arc instead of his gameplay moves. But again, there's probably so much that got cut out. Maybe that's just what the edit showed.
And then, I mean, that also, though, if he's still talking about how he grew as a person, trying to hone in on the second chance thing, which it seemed like he was trying to do, he's not as likable as Jeremy. And if he's trying to work on his personality, he leaves the door open for Jeremy to say, look, I did it for my family. And everybody's going to be like, well, that wins it in my book. And this is kind of Spencer's fault again. He was really focusing on how he grew as a person. you got this guy Jeremy sitting there with the family. If you're going to make the who are you as a human argument, you're leaving the door open for somebody who has 2 kids and is about to have a third.
Yeah, I guess, but I don't know. The whole theme of this season, and this was obviously a lot of editing, was that if you don't change, you're not gonna be rewarded. You're gonna fail. Or if you resort to your old ways, you're gonna fail. What did Jeremy do differently? And they never told us. And he still wins 10-0. So I think the theme of the season kind of fell off here by the end, because I didn't see what was his change from his first season. I think he played a very similar game and just never really got blindsided, because there's so much other stuff going on, so many other threats, when in his season there were no threats. He was the only threat. It was all people like Alec and like Jacqueline and Missy. So he was the only one that you would vote. So I don't know, I don't see him changing his game all that much.
I don't think he changed his game all that much, but I think he just figured out how he was supposed to play it the first time. I think the first time he got a little sidetracked and put a target on his back, and I think this time he learned to not put the target on his back and really work people more than try to work them as numbers. And I think that's what did him wrong the first time, is he was like, well, I got this guy, I'm that leader of this, and he really played up the leadership role. Here he wasn't playing up the leadership role. Nobody ever knew he was really in control. And I think that really worked for him to get to the end.
That's a good point.
So then Giovanni Oriana asks, where would Cambodia rank for you guys now that it's over? I don't know if you want to go first. I know exactly where I would put it, so I don't know if you want to go first. I have my list in front of me that we did when we did our season rankings.
Oh man, it just ended. You need to sit with it a little bit, then a rewatch. Part of it is weird when you analyze it so much and you podcast about it. It just, the season feels different. Like that I don't know. Some of these votes weren't as surprising just because you're reading into everything. It's probably better than I have it, but I'd say it's around. I don't know. It's probably around the top 10.
I would
maybe like
I would put it at 5. I would put it at 5.
Yeah,
I was always looking for one to put in my top 5 that entertained me the entire time, that really had blind sides, had big moves, had all this huge stuff. I remember when we did it the first time, my number 5 was Vanuatu, and I know that like blows so many people's minds. I had Micronesia at 6 just because the too many injuries. It didn't sit right with me. You know, it had the big moments post-merge, probably the best post-merge ever, but the pre-merge wasn't that good. You know, then Heroes versus Villains, I still would have ahead of Second Chance. But like this one, I think is close to Heroes versus Villains because Heroes versus Villains had a great pre-merge and an okay post-merge. It's very okay. This one was solid the entire time. I would seriously put it at 5, only behind China, Amazon, Cagayan, and Heroes versus Villains. And it's really close to Heroes versus Villains for me.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think the one tribal tonight kind of put it up there, because that was that episode. I mean, the finale really brought it up high in the ranks. It needed that finale for me. It might be a top 5 season for me. I don't know. It's too soon.
Yeah, I hear you. Let's see, we already answered that one. All right, Giovanni Oriana's asking, who was the funniest contestant? Who was the villain, the underdog? What was the best move? And who do you think improved the most? I don't know if you want to just take these one at a time. Funniest is always Keith, right? I mean, was anybody even close to Keith?
No, Keith takes that one easily.
The villain,
underdog.
The villain's Abby Maria, right? I mean,
sure, yeah.
Pre-merge, it's Varner. Post-merge, it's Abby Maria. That's what I kind of get from it. Underdog, it's either Wentworth or Spencer, but I think it's more on Wentworth.
Yeah, I give it to Wentworth. She fell to the bottom after the merge pretty hard, like more quickly. I give it to Wentworth.
What was the best move?
The best move, I don't know what the best move was. I mean, if we do it Jeremy because he won, like what was Jeremy's best move? I can't think of any one move that he really kind of pulled through. I think Kelly getting Keith to stay in the game. I think Keith was so ready to walk out that door. I thought that was a really good move.
Yeah, that was a really good. I'm trying to think if there was anything that really shaped the course of this game, and there really wasn't. The best.
I think Kelly's idle play wasn't like. I mean, she knew she was getting all the votes, so
this might sound crazy. I think the best move might actually be Jeremy playing his idol for Steven in hindsight, because that kept the target off of Jeremy, kept it on Steven, kept his closest ally in the game, and even though it didn't last long, it lasted just long enough for Jeremy to rekindle a relationship with Kimmy, Tasha, and Spencer and say, okay, it's the four of us. And he got it to last. He got that move to happen at the perfect time. And in hindsight, that really is the best move, I think, of the season, even though it only saved Fishbach for one move. It gets rid of Sierra, who was seriously about to go on the warpath.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to say what Sierra would have done. I still think because it only lasted one vote, it didn't have that big of an impact on the overall game. And Jeremy wasn't being targeted anyway, really. I think Spencer's move to somehow defeat a vote steal and get the person out who played it, I mean, it's pretty awesome. And Steven was a big threat. People knew he was a big threat going in. So I think Spencer getting Steven out when he plays his own advantage, that was a pretty big one too.
Yeah, that was
let's go to the next comment.
Well, okay. Well, last one here. Who improved the most? I think this is a fun question because, this is a second chance season. Who improved the most?
Probably Kelly Wentworth.
Yeah, that's who I would say too. Even though Jeremy won, I think Kelly goes from being invisible boot early on in a bad season to Final Four and really was like a powerhouse.
Yeah, Final Four, fan favorite, underdog, 2 idols, 2 immunity wins in a great season.
Yeah, I think that's most improved. Okay, Peter Rubinstein, really pumped I beat Phil in a fantasy game. Something Will can't do. Bad news, Peter Rubinstein.
Wait. Aren't I taking 3 out of 2 of these?
3 out of 2?
I have 3 out of 2.
The prop bet one is the most important one. You definitely won 2, and I won 2. You get the Jeremy one. You didn't get Tasha as the jury.
Yeah, Jeremy won. That sucks. It's a bummer.
No, you won. Yeah, you won. You won. So you won 3-2 this time. Close though. The boot list was really close.
Yeah, that's close.
What's up?
Yeah, and you were looking at the boot list the whole time, and I still somehow pulled it off.
Yeah, the boot list one was really close. 86-84 was the final on the boot list. I wonder if the boot list final 3 was correct.
All right, so what's that?
I wonder if the boot list final 3 was correct.
You'll have to check it out. You're the boot list master.
I know. I can't wait to look at the boot list for next season. Now that you beat me this season, I got to go and cheat.
Right. All right, what Peter Rubinstein said.
I read it. He said, really pumped I beat Phil in a fantasy game, something Will can't do.
We're wrong.
Yeah.
What's the next one?
It's a shame you're glitching so much. Giovanni Oriana, how many people talked during that finale? I'm assuming he means the reunion. They skipped over almost the entire back row except for Varner, who they definitely had to at least touch on. They obviously hit on Terry, but otherwise we didn't really hear much from Cass. We didn't hear much from anybody who got voted out pre-merge, which I was okay with. Not the most interesting characters up there. We were happy with this boot list.
Oh, yeah, I was fine with how the finale went down. They bet high. They didn't want people noticing Vitas wasn't there, because if you hadn't told me that, I probably don't even notice that Vitas wasn't there.
I mean, Shireen was the last one on the bench. It was obvious. They did a wide shot. It was pretty obvious.
Yeah, but I'm not looking there. I'm looking at Jeremy and Spencer. I'm looking at Jeff Probst. I'm looking at Joe. That's who everybody's looking at.
Yeah. So I guess we're going to talk about season 32 at the very end, right? We'll talk about that preview, so I'll skip that one till the end. Ash says 100% agree. Considering the game he played, Spencer deserved more respect than that. Jeremy had the sob story, which stole votes. Yeah, we've talked about that a lot. Stole votes, probably didn't change the outcome of the game, though. Let's see. All in all, Ash again, all in all, great season with a deserving winner. I hope next season can at least somewhat live up to this season. I am terrified next season is going to stink. That's me talking, not her.
I'm going to get some fun vibes. I'm excited. We'll talk about it, though. We'll do a kind of what we know about 32 podcast sometime. Let's keep bumping through these comments, though.
Jimmy O'Connor, another Big Brother player. I'm a big fan of Show personally, and Caleb was known to be one of the most loyal players ever, so that'll be interesting. That was somebody that they talked about in the preview there. Let's see. Juning Utah has been tweeting at us a couple times. I'm not sure what this is in response to, but it says, "Oh, I said recap is live now, and we love Joe. She's in love with Joe, or he's in love with Joe." That was a huge topic at the reunion. They talked a lot about Joe. You're distracting me. Let's see here. Josephina Loudon, this was my favorite season ever. Ash, what do you think of them doing another Brains, Brawn, and Beauty? We'll talk about that in a little bit. Wub, coming from a super fan, Kelly is one of my favorite players ever, and Second Chance is my favorite season ever. I think Kelly really moved up the rankings in a lot of people's books this season. I think Kelly's going to be one of the most remembered players, really, like one of the probably the most loved female characters to ever come on the show.
I could see Kelly and Spencer like each coming back on their own tribe. Just they become the next like big, Russell, Rob, Ozzy, Coach,
Yep, exactly. And then one last one on Twitter. Esco says Kelly Wentworth should have sent Keith home. Do you agree with that? Do you think that would have changed the game at all if Keith goes home instead of Kim at 6?
I don't know, because you still don't. Kelly doesn't win immunity at 5. She wins immunity. You don't know you're going to win immunity though.
Yeah,
that's your problem. If you keep Keith, at least they can still maybe get Keith, or you have someone who's voting with you, working with you. Unless Kimmy loses all trust, I don't know though. I don't know if it changes much. I think we said this in the predictions. She wasn't going to get to the end. Her path to the end was so difficult.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. And then there's one last one here. This is from Dirk Diggler. I don't know if you know Dirk Diggler. This is Dirk Diggler. He says, "Is this a new era of Survivor originality and entertainment?" I guess what he's pretty much asking here is this the turning point? Like, is this just going to be like a completely new show now for like the next 10 seasons or however much longer it goes?
Well, season 32 was filmed before 31, so 32 can't kind of learn anything that happened well in this season. So I think we have to wait, see what 32 brings, and I think then they're going to have a new 2 crop of seasons filming this summer that will likely, they'll use some of the twists and some of the gameplay elements that happened well on 31. Yep.
I kind of agree. Yeah, it's gonna be weird how next season is like not gonna learn from this season at all. Nimlo, this is the YouTube now. Nimlot Art. Cass will never vote for Spencer to win. She enjoyed voting Wu out as a revenge because he didn't take her with him to the final. She will not vote for Spencer as a revenge because he said that she had 0 chance to win. She is all for revenge. Yeah, I mean, I didn't really get much from Cass in this finale. Very underwhelmed by Cass. Didn't really say too much. Her jury thing wasn't that great.
Yeah, it was all towards Spencer and wasn't that big of a question. I don't know.
Yeah. Giovanni Oriana, can you guys do a podcast about a legend season with the best of the best? I'm sure we could figure something like that out for the off season.
That sounds like a fun one. Yeah.
That would be fun. He's the one who said, is it odd that in Cagayan, Spencer could have easily won, and in Cambodia he gets 0 votes? That just goes to show Cagayan, great season, really great cast. They weren't likable people. Like they're all like really like, you don't want to live with those people. These people who are out on the island this time are more livable people.
I don't know. People, I mean, yes and no. People said like Spencer, they love Spencer. They were hoping he would win, like when he went home. Like he got back to Ponce Rosa, everyone loved him. People still like Spencer, and I think that's why this isn't a Russell thing where he didn't get votes. I think Jeremy was just that much more likable and had that much better of a reason. But
yeah. And then Giovanni Oriana says, what are the legacies of each of these 20 players? I don't know if you want to just cover some of them, like some of the bigger ones. Really. Well, no, I'm saying, I guess, like these ending
I think ones we might need to do like another podcast on this because to go through 20 players and I would like to do that at some point.
I don't want to go through all 20, but like Jeremy, like, do you think Jeremy, like if they're doing like an all-winner season and they need 10 guys and 10 girls, is Jeremy one of the 10 they bring back?
Yeah, because he's recent.
And then you think
it makes so much sense. He's
God, I keep interrupting you because you're so freaking glitchy. Kelly Wentworth and Spencer, very good chance of them still coming back. You think we've seen the last of Tasha though?
Yeah, it depends. I mean, the fan vote thing worked so well. If they ever say, look, we're gonna do Heroes versus Villains 2, and we want the fans to vote. You can vote for players who have played one time or played 2 times. I mean, if she lands on that ballot, there's a chance we see her again. She wasn't like a bore. I mean, it was crazy that she ended up kind of being a GOAT here, but just as much of a GOAT as Spencer. I mean, tied him.
Very true. Very true. I just think that we've probably seen the end of Kimmy, Keith, and Tasha. I think, Kimmy will go down as pretty forgettable, but goes out at the best tribal council ever. And Keith will just go out as the funny guy who, never really made too much of an impact on gameplay, just to cover people who were at least in the finale.
I mean, Keith he's not going to be on a legend season. He's not going to be on a winner season. So there's no more Keith. I think Spencer probably comes back for a legends thing.
The legends one's going to be fun. That'd be a fun podcast.
We'll get that done.
Yeah. Okay. Gamer Girl 2330. When do you think we'll get our next all-returnee season? All-Stars and Heroes versus Villains were 12 seasons apart. Heroes versus Villains in this season were 11 seasons apart. My guess is somewhere in the early 40s if Survivor makes it that far. Also, do you think we'll ever see any returnees before then?
I think returnees, I think Blood versus Water is still very much a possibility. I know San Juan del Sur wasn't the greatest season, but if they have returnees, that season 27, the first iteration of that was very popular. You never know. It's like Survivor goes through these cycles where they have one returning season and people like it, and then they do it kind of too much and they forget about it. But now it's back, and they might get back on that train where we're going to get returnees, every other season. I wouldn't be surprised if we got all returnees legend season by season 40 or an all-winner season 40. I think we're going to get a lot of newbies coming up here in the next few years. But I think season 40 is the one to look out for. They didn't do anything really big for season 30. So I think they need to do something big for season 40.
Exactly. And I hope that we don't see the days of – I hope we don't see a Kelly Wentworth versus a Spencer, and they all have new players around them. I think that's so unfair. It makes the seasons kind of boring. The only one it's ever worked in was Philippines. It's the only one it really ever worked in. Blood versus Water was very entertaining. So I don't mind so much if they do half of a season, like with players who know how to play and half who don't. It did work really well in Micronesia. It worked well in Blood versus Water, but it was a disaster in Caramoan. If they're going to do it, just save it up for an all-returnee season. It would be much better. Think about the people they could have still had, had they not. I guess they really didn't have too many people they could have done because the people that they used had already played twice. But, still, you want to see some of these people not come back in kind of pointless situations. Like a Russell Swan came back in a really pointless situation in Philippines. Ozzy comes back.
I'm totally fine with Russell Swan Philippines. I mean, there was at least a theme to that, and they weren't these dominating players. Like Russell Swan wasn't like a Rob or a Russell or somebody like that. So I'm okay with that. You don't want to see these, power players getting to come in,
Yeah, I agree. Nicholas Rodine, Will is right. Spencer should have won. Russell Hance had absolutely no social skills to win the game. Spencer actually has social skills, makes the big strategic moves, and he built the bond. He should have won. He made the moves to win, but they give the win to Jeremy because of the sob story that Val is pregnant. I mean, I think Stephen Fishbach completely disproved that theory that that's the reason Jeremy won by saying Jeremy was going to win anyway.
Yeah, I mean, that's just one guy out there. I don't think any one guy, even if you're out there, can completely disprove it or prove it either way. But, I mean, I don't think it's like a slam dunk. Like if Jeremy doesn't mention that, he loses, but I think it would have been a lot closer. And it's hard to, like, if you're awarding someone $1 million and you know that he has a kid on the way and he's a firefighter, like, it's hard not to write that guy's name down. I mean,
Spencer's going to have chances in his life.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough not to. So, especially because Jeremy did play a great game also. I will say.
Edwin Hernandez, where would you rank Jeremy as a winner? He's top tier. He's probably top 10, close to top 10.
Everybody loves the rankings. It's just like, let's rank the season. Let's rank the winner.
It's easy.
Let's rank who's a legend. No, I mean, people love it. I think people love rankings. We're too close to it. We got to take a breath, take a step back from the season. Well, that's the process.
No, that's true. We'll do a ranking eventually again. Let's see here. Multi-musicalismo. I respect it due to what happened with Danny, but on the other side, there were at least 6 survivors who didn't get something to say at the reunion. Wu, Wigglesworth, Monica, was she there? PG, Shireen, Cass, and Vetus was surely not there. Did I miss someone? I got mixed emotions about this. Why did we not hear anything from Cass? This was really weird to me.
I think we spent a lot of time on Joe. I don't think it just didn't seem, and they weren't going into the audience asking stupid questions either or talking to Rob or Russell. It just kind of felt like a bore, this reunion show. And maybe it's because the finale that came before it was just so exciting that we're just sitting around and there wasn't a lot of questions left unanswered. We said this about the Worlds Apart reunion that, man, everyone kind of loved each other out there. Or maybe this was San Juan del Sur, I forget. I mean, I know we had the Will Shireen thing, but there wasn't anything to like break down. There was no like Don and Brenda teeth moment. There was no huge blind side of like two best friends. I mean, there wasn't anything to kind of rehash. It was like, well, let's talk about how much people like Joe. Let's talk about Kelly because she's cool. It wasn't anything interesting kind of that the players needed to settle. It was kind of all settled on the field.
It's true. It's true. And a lot of the players who went early, they did get a lot of screen time. I know Monica didn't get much screen time, but they did get a lot of screen time, and they got endings to their story. The only one you needed to talk to from that back row, you needed to talk to Varner, and you obviously had to talk to Terry because of his son. But otherwise, you really didn't need to hear from them. We didn't need to hear from Wu. We didn't need to hear from Monica. We didn't need to hear from Shireen, and we didn't need to hear from PG. So much happened later in the game that, whoa, I just lost my voice, that it was really almost like unnecessary there. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't need to. And they didn't have that much time because they went 10 minutes over with the voting.
Yeah, I like that too. They did they let it go past usual time to include, more of that final travel, more stuff from the island.
Yeah. Edwin Hernandez, Will, you were not on the island. Apparently, if no one voted for Spencer, they didn't play the best game. Jeremy's more likable than Spencer. Jeremy was in control the entire time. Stop kissing Spencer's ass. Give Jeremy more credit for the amazing game he played. About time the Will haters come out. I've missed them.
I mean, we've had more people agree with me so far than not. So, I mean, look, I'm just saying if I were there, I would have voted for him. I think Spencer played a better game. Jeremy deserves to win. He should win. He's the winner. He played a great game too. I've said that. I just think Spencer played better. That's all I can really say. I'm not going to lie and say I think Jeremy played a better game because I don't think he did.
Although you did kiss his ass the entire season. That's all I'm going to say.
I thought Jeremy played an amazing game, an incredible game, but I think Spencer played an even better one. I really do. Okay. If you look at I think there was two really great winners up there. That's why I thought it'd be closer. I was happy with either one of them winning. It was just kind of like I was just kind of bummed that I knew going in that Jeremy was going to wrap this thing up because they were playing the kid and the family thing so hard, and I just knew Spencer wasn't going to pull this one through.
Yeah. Son of Nuo, do you think they should wipe out immunity both from necklaces and idols when players choose to draw rocks? This would force all players to consider consequences of their votes. I think that's interesting. And I know winning immunity is like you want immunity. But this is interesting because then you wouldn't have Spencer being so confident about like, well, Tasha's not going home. Because if he could put his ass on the line, then it gets a little scary.
I think it's fine how it is. I think it adds an interesting dynamic. And look, if they went to rocks tonight, Keith goes home automatically. And maybe then we're talking about it. That leaves a sour taste in your mouth. But they talked about it. They all went on board for Kimmy. I think it adds an interesting element to the game. And idols have been around since, they've been around like 15 seasons now at least. Maybe 17 seasons, 18 seasons. It's been a lot. This is the first time it's ever happened. So it's not like we have to game plan against this when, one, it's never really happened. And two, it was one of the most exciting things we've ever seen. Why don't we want to see this again? I don't think there's anything that needs to be changed.
Mm-hmm. Harold Rice, is Cambodia better because Jeremy, someone who was blindsided, wins the season? I just think it's better because we had a satisfying winner and everything up to it was satisfying. I don't think that Jeremy winning really makes it any better. I just think the whole overall was just really good.
I mean, yeah, I think blindsided has nothing to do. If he had gotten not blindsided last season, I think it's still the same season.
Mm-hmm. Five white guys. Kelly was an extremely great player. She really was and needs to be recognized as one of the top 20. Definitely played a great game this time. It's a shame with San Juan del Sur, she just never had a chance. This season, she played great. Good to see her back. Probably not the last we'll ever see of her. Five white guys again. Watching the season 32 preview made me really upset that this season is over. It sucks. Do you want to talk about season 32? We have a couple more comments, or do you want to talk about season 32 real quick? Just to say like what we thought. They actually gave us a preview this time. They never do that.
I guess we can bring that up, and that's all. We'll get into. I mean, we know us, man. We're going to be doing podcast after podcast about the cast. I mean, I think it's already been released or it's been spoiled, not officially by CBS, but by Redmond and people like that. I guess I think that preview, it was just for someone like us, people like us who are huge fans, and we have the internet, we have forums, Survivor Sucks, Reddit, all this stuff. We have now, what was that, 2 minutes of footage that we now have to like break down and analyze and figure out who went home when and who's medevaced and why were these people shown in the finale. Is one of those people the winner? And that's why I don't like it. It's like, man, now it's all we're going to hear about is, man, half of those people that got a confessional in that preview in the second chance finale. You know what I mean?
And I agree. I think if they were going to do this, they had to show everybody. Just roll through the cast real quick. Almost give the fans here's Survivor season 32. Give us the intro video. Just give us that. Don't give us anything else. Say this is it, and maybe spice it up a little bit. You can show some medevacs or whatever you want to show, just like the boat, all that. But people are going to nitpick this, and it's going to get to the point where somebody's going to see, oh, that person got medevaced. Like, people are going to figure out that somebody got medevaced. There's going to be a lot of people that get – I think Redmond said there was either 2 or 3 that get medevaced, which is really a shame. It looks like this is going to be a brutal season. This might be either really good or just really leave a poor taste in your mouth because these people just couldn't handle it, and you're going to get a lot of unfinished storylines.
Yeah, I mean, if medevacs are happening, there's also we got to take that into account. So, it's we'll talk about everything, but I think we should put season 32 on the back burner. Do we have any more comments on season 31, Survivor second chance before you? Okay, let's get to these, and then we'll put it to bed.
5 white guys. I totally agree with Kimmy being under-edited and very much could have been underrated. I think Kimmy was doing a lot of stuff, just not the most interesting character. That's why she kind of got left out a little bit. Kyle Stone, so upset Spencer didn't at least get second place. He deserved it. I completely agree with that. Should have at least gotten 1 vote. Jeremy should not have been a unanimous winner this time, although he did play a great game. 5 white guys. Spencer definitely lost a lot of consideration for votes in his rant against Jeremy voting against him. I think that's true. And I think that this could be seen as a good game move, but I also think that this was just seen as a lot of sour grapes. And I think that you got to look at this jury. I think they were like, man, you can't be sitting there bullying Jeremy like when you keep saying that you're changing and you're a better person and you're going to stick with him and all that stuff. I mean, he was bullying the hell out of him.
Yeah, but this is for $1 million and it's Final Four of Survivor. If you're cast or not, like, love that. That's what you've been doing like every time you play. So I think it was very hypocritical for Sierra not to vote for Spencer.
I thought Sierra was dumb on that. I don't understand why Sierra didn't do that. I will not argue with you on that one. Sierra should have been the vote for Spencer.
Sierra does that stuff all the time. I think that's actually bold gameplay, and if it works, I think you should be rewarded for it. So for them to say that was mean, like, get over it. Like, please get over it. That's fun. That's what we want to see. It's exciting, and it worked. Put the pressure on Jerry. You have a decision to make. That's good gameplay.
Yeah. It might have also pissed off the jurors a little bit that he was almost speaking for them, and it was like, you don't have that much power over us. Like, I think that might have actually irked them a little bit too. There's a lot of egos on that jury. Anyway,
that's
5 white guys.
Yeah.
Was very disappointed they didn't pull the jury to see how a Kelly, Jeremy, Tasha final tribal would have went down. Fishbach tweeted, said that Kelly would have won. How much you can put faith in that, I don't know. Fishbach did have a good relationship with all of them at Ponderosa, so it's very, very easy to see. And then 5 white guys. Great coverage of the season, guys. Thank you. I mean, we don't really have anything else to say, right? I mean, this was a really great season, probably one of the best, if not the best finale with one of the best, if not the best tribal council of all time. I mean, you couldn't really ask for too much more. It was so hyped up, and it exceeded expectations.
Well, thank you to Phil, I guess. You got to thank you, Phil, but also to everybody who listens. It makes us excited to podcast. When we were first doing this, I think we got like 50 views or something after the whole hour-long podcast, and it's definitely feels good when more people listen and people comment. So thank you for listening all season, and I think we'll continue to get better, continue to do podcasts and off-season ideas. So thank you guys. Great season.
One last thing, Will. Don't X out. Did you X out? You didn't X out.
No, I'm still here.
Oh, okay, cool. One last thing. In terms of the prop bet thing, we will get all of those scored. We'll reveal it on the next podcast. We just couldn't get it all done tonight, obviously, with the reunion happening and all that stuff. So we'll get it done. We'll post we'll talk about it on the the thing and reveal who what? It was 2 buff winners, or is it 3? I forget. You have it.
It's two buff winners. It's pretty close right now. So I think tonight, I mean, Jeremy finally got an immunity. We have more people headed to the jury, so there's a lot of points still to be had. Yeah. You got anything else, Phil?
No, that's it.